Can you just like talk about like what you personally saw and thought and felt, and like what people around you were saying?
Just like Obama 20 years later, or 14, 16 years later, in 2 years, it was obvious that he wasn't going to do any of his campaign promises. Hillary fucked up the abortive supposed attempt to get uh, uh, some kind of Medicare for all kind of plan.
Yeah.
The whole DLC, Democratic Leadership Council, not the DNC, but the DLC, was what he had founded. It was just Republican right. It was just a money making machine, and it wasn't just Clinton. I probably in 1988 rather, I had spent a few years working for a local Democratic Party in New York, the Ridgewood Democratic Club. It was run by a woman named Kathy Nolan, who was an assemblywoman. She was a nice enough woman, and this gets into some other things I don't want to get into about a certain politician that I knew back then. But I remember the Democratic Club there. After working there for 3 years, Dinkins was running against Ed Koch in '89, and they were going to have a Democratic. They were going to writing all Democratic candidates, but the Ridgewood Democratic Club refused to let Dinkins come because they didn't want to let a nigger speak. And I was like, "Fuck that shit!" I said, I wasn't particularly thrilled with Dinkins. I hated Koch, but it's like, so I never had the illusion that then the burgeoning middle ground by the late '80s, at the end of Reaganism, the first years of Bush, the first Bush, I knew the Democrats had already lost their way. They were no longer even LBJ Democrats. And then Clinton came along, and he corporatized that whole movement with the DLC. There's so many. There's so many little things. It's not even worth going into now, 30 years on. But Bill Clinton, he's. I'll give him that. He's probably the best pure politician in my lifetime. I was too young to really know LBJ, so he's maybe the only other contender. But by far, post LBJ, the best politician was Clinton. But he didn't do anything good. He didn't leave the country better than he found it. So